Louis Armstrong was born in 1901 in one of the poorest areas of New Orleans, known as the Battlefield. He grew up in extreme poverty, without his father's presence, and had to work from a very young age selling coal and scrap metal. His life was spent on the streets, without direction. On New Year's Eve of 1912, when he was 11 years old, Armstrong, either as a prank or a form of celebration, fired a pistol that belonged to his stepfather into the air during the festivities. Because of this, he was arrested by the police, who sent him to the New Orleans Home for Colored Waifs, a reform school for African American boys who were troubled or homeless. This event, which seemed like the end of his path, was actually the beginning. Despite the harsh conditions, the reform school provided Louis with his first and only formal musical training. Armstrong joined the band, where the band director, Peter Davis, noticed the young Louis's innate talent and took him under his wing. Louis began by playing the bugle and the drum, but soon Peter Davis moved him to the cornet, an instrument similar to the trumpet, but smaller. Louis dedicated all his time to mastering the instrument and, thanks to his natural talent and Davis's guidance, he progressed quickly. This was the only formal musical training Armstrong would receive in his life. What had begun as a punishment, the reform school, became his only music school. Over time, he became the leader of the reform school's band. The band played in parades, parties, and public events throughout the city, which allowed Louis to gain experience performing before real audiences in New Orleans. When they marched through his old neighborhood, people were so proud of him that they sometimes collected money to buy new uniforms for the band. When Armstrong left the reform school, his skill was so remarkable that he quickly earned a place in New Orleans jazz bands. He was mentored by the most influential trumpeter in the city, Joe "King" Oliver. In 1922, King Oliver invited him to Chicago to join his band. This move marked the beginning of his professional career, recording his first works in 1923 and ultimately revolutionizing jazz by introducing the concept of the virtuoso soloist and scat singing. Louis Armstrong always referred to his time in the reform school as his university. What began as an act of juvenile delinquency became the event that rescued him from the extreme poverty of his childhood and launched him into music, changing the history of jazz forever.